Human saves a powerful alien warrior woman from a brutal battle. Then she begs too. Ethan Brooks ran across the barren landscape of Violia, his boots sinking slightly into the ash-like soil. The sky above was dark with smoke and dust, lit occasionally by bursts of fire from distant explosions. He gripped his plasma rifle tightly, moving carefully between jagged rocks, his heart pounding in his chest. He had been sent here as part of a human reconnaissance mission, but the scene before him was more chaotic than anything he had ever imagined. Alien warriors fought everywhere, their bodies tall and strong, their movements sharp and deadly. The sound of battle filled the air, roars, screams, and the thudding of weapons striking flesh and metal. Ethan ducked behind a large stone, trying to get a better view. That's when he saw her. She was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with muscles rippling under her armor. Her skin was pale with a faint glow, and her long silver hair whipped in the wind. She moved with deadly precision, cutting down anyone who came near her. Yet even from a distance, Ethan could see that she was wounded. Her armor was scratched and dented, and she stumbled slightly as she swung her long, curved blade. He could see blood on her arm, bright against her pale skin. Ethan hesitated for a moment. He knew humans were not supposed to get involved in alien battles. It was dangerous, and they were far from reinforcements. But something inside him refused to leave her there. He had to do something. He took a deep breath and ran forward, keeping low. Bullets and plasma shots flew past him, and one grazed his shoulder, burning through his uniform. Pain shot through his body, but he ignored it. He had to reach her. The alien warrior, noticing him, turned her head. Her eyes, glowing faintly blue, locked onto him. She raised her weapon, ready to strike, but Ethan was faster. He rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding a strike that could have ended him. "Stay back!" she shouted in a voice that was sharp and commanding, though Ethan could not fully understand her words. He only knew she was warning him to keep distance. "I'm not here to fight you," Ethan shouted back. "I just want to help." She paused, her expression hardening. She had never met a human before who dared to approach her in the middle of battle. Her instincts told her to attack, but something about his courage made her hesitate. She had never seen anyone move like that, and she was not used to others risking their lives for her. Before she could decide, a group of enemy aliens charged at her from the side. They were bigger than her usual opponents, armed with long, jagged spears and thick shields. She swung her blade with deadly accuracy, but one of the enemies caught her off guard. A spear pierced her leg, and she cried out, stumbling to the ground. Blood flowed freely, and her blade fell from her hand. Ethan saw the moment and ran faster, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. He reached her just as the enemy raised their weapons for a finishing strike. Without thinking, he grabbed a fallen alien rifle and fired, the blue plasma bolts cutting through the air. The enemies fell back, startled by the human's unexpected attack. "Get up!" Ethan shouted, grabbing her by the arm. She tried to push him away, but her strength was failing her. "I won't let them kill you." Her eyes widened in surprise. Humans were small, fragile, and often weak, but this one was different. He was strong, quick, and fearless. He was risking his life for her. That simple fact made her heart race with a feeling she had never known before. Ethan helped her to her feet. She leaned heavily on him, groaning in pain. Her leg was badly wounded, and her armor had deep scratches. He could feel her trembling slightly, but she still tried to stand tall, proud, and unbroken. "Come on," he said gently, guiding her away from the battlefield. "We need to get out of here before they come back." She hesitated, looking back at the fight behind them. Her warriors had fallen, and the enemies were still everywhere. She had never run from a fight before, but something about the human's calm and determined voice made her trust him. Slowly, she allowed herself to be guided, limping as best she could. Ethan supported her weight, wrapping one arm around her shoulders and holding her close. It was awkward, and she felt heat rise to her cheeks, but she said nothing. She had always been independent, never needing anyone's help, but now she had no choice. They moved carefully, hiding behind rocks and ruins, avoiding patrols. Ethan's eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, alert for danger. The alien warrior was strong and fast, but with her leg wounded, she could not keep up with her usual speed. Ethan knew that if they were caught, both of them could die. After what felt like hours, they reached a small cave hidden behind a cluster of rocks. It was dark, but it would provide some safety. Ethan helped her inside and set her down gently on the ground. She collapsed, exhausted and in pain. He knelt beside her, examining her wound with practiced care. "It's bad, but I can stop the bleeding," he said softly. He tore a piece of his uniform and wrapped it around her leg, pressing firmly to slow the flow of blood. She winced but did not move away. She was not used to being cared for like this, and it made her feel strangely vulnerable. "You're strong," she said finally, her voice quiet. "For a human." Ethan smiled faintly. "And you're strong for an alien." But even the strongest need help sometimes. She looked at him, trying to hide the surprise in her eyes. She had always believed humans were weak, fragile, and incapable of facing true danger. Yet here he was, saving her life with nothing but courage, determination, and quick thinking. He was nothing like she expected. They stayed in the cave for a while, the sound of distant battles echoing through the rocks. Ethan cleaned her wounds as best he could and applied a makeshift bandage. He offered her some water, and she drank quietly, her body trembling from the pain and exhaustion. "You could have left me," she said after a moment, her voice soft. "Most humans would have." "I couldn't," Ethan replied simply. "I saw you, and I knew I had to help. No one deserves to die like that if I can stop it." She studied him carefully. His words were honest, and she could see the truth in his eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever put themselves in danger for her without expecting something in return. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a feeling she could not name. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to relax slightly. She leaned back, letting Ethan continue to tend to her wounds. He worked silently, his movements careful and precise, showing a level of skill she had not expected from a human. "Why do you care so much?" she asked after a while. "Why risk your life for someone you do not even know?" Ethan shrugged. "Because it's the right thing to do. Someone needed help. You were that someone, that's all." She stared at him, trying to understand. Her world was harsh, and she had learned that strength meant survival. Helping others was a weakness, a luxury that few could afford. Yet here was a human who did not think of weakness or fear. He acted because it was right, not because it was expected. The alien warrior felt something stir inside her. A feeling she had never experienced before, something like trust, like respect, and maybe even admiration. She did not understand it fully, but she knew she owed her life to this human, and that knowledge made her feel different. Night fell over the planet, and the cave grew colder. Ethan built a small fire, and its light flickered over their faces. The alien warrior watched him quietly, still cautious but unable to look away. She had fought countless battles, faced countless enemies, and survived impossible odds, but she had never met anyone like Ethan Brooks. As they rested, the distant sounds of battle slowly faded. The alien warrior closed her eyes for a moment, letting exhaustion take over. Ethan sat beside her, keeping watch. He knew that the fight was not over and that danger could return at any moment. But for now, they were alive, and that was enough. For the first time in a long time, the alien warrior felt a sense of peace. She did not know what would come next, but she knew one thing: this human had changed something inside her. Something she could not yet name, but something she could not ignore. And Ethan, sitting quietly beside her, knew that this was only the beginning. The morning sun rose over the rocky landscape, casting pale light across the cave entrance. Ethan Brooks stirred first, careful not to wake the alien warrior beside him. Leora, as he had learned her name was still asleep, her body tense even in rest. Her injuries from the battle had left her weak, and he could see the faint bruises on her arms and legs. Ethan quietly checked their surroundings. The cave was small but hidden well among the rocks, giving them some safety. Outside, the battlefields were quiet, at least for the moment. Ethan knew that the enemy forces could return at any time, and they had to keep moving if they wanted to survive. He gently shook Leora awake. "We need to get moving," he said softly. "It's not safe here for long." Leora's eyes opened slowly, and she looked at him with a mixture of caution and curiosity. "I can move," she said, her voice still weak. She tried to sit up, but her leg burned with pain, and she winced. Ethan helped her to her feet, supporting her weight. She stumbled slightly, but he held her steady. "You don't have to rush," he said. "We'll take it slow. I've got you." She looked at him, unsure how to respond. She had never needed help like this before. Leora was a warrior, trained to fight and survive alone. Accepting aid was foreign, almost uncomfortable. But she also knew that without Ethan, she would not have survived the battle. Slowly, she allowed him to guide her out of the cave. They moved cautiously across the rocky terrain, keeping to shadows and avoiding open areas. Leora's strength was remarkable, even with her injury, but Ethan could see her struggling with every step. He adjusted his pace to match hers, offering support whenever needed. As they walked, Leora finally spoke. "Why are you helping me? Humans usually avoid my kind. They fear us." Ethan glanced at her. "I don't see why. You're just someone in trouble like anyone else. I saw you fighting, and I knew I couldn't leave you, that's all." She studied him carefully. There was no fear in his eyes, no hesitation, just honesty. It confused her because she had always expected fear, weakness, or selfishness from humans. Yet here was a man who risked his life for her without a second thought. They reached a narrow ravine that cut through the landscape. Ethan scanned the area carefully. "We'll have to cross here," he said. "It's safer than going around, but we need to move carefully." Leora nodded, her pride in her eyes. She wanted to insist she could manage alone, but the pain in her leg reminded her of her limits. Together, they began to cross, balancing on jagged rocks while avoiding the deep drops below. Ethan kept one hand on her back, steadying her when she lost balance. Halfway across, a sound of movement made them both freeze. A patrol of enemy aliens appeared at the top of the ravine, scanning the area. Ethan ducked behind a rock, pulling Leora down with him. She breathed heavily, her body tense, ready to fight despite her injury. "Stay quiet," Ethan whispered. "We can slip past them if we move slowly." Leora nodded, though her eyes were wide with concern. She had faced countless enemies before, but this situation was different. She was not fully healed, and this human was guiding her. She had to trust him. Slowly and carefully, they moved along the edge of the ravine, pressing against the rock walls. The patrol passed without noticing them, and they breathed quietly once the danger was gone. "That was close," Leora said finally, her voice trembling slightly. I did not think humans could be so clever." Ethan smiled faintly. "We adapt, and sometimes we have to, just like you." For the next few hours, they moved cautiously across the rocky plains. Leora's strength returned gradually, and she began to fight with instinct again, though Ethan kept her from pushing too hard. He taught her some simple techniques to move quietly and avoid detection, combining human strategy with her warrior instincts. By mid-afternoon, they reached a small stream running through a shallow valley. The water was clear, and the sound of it rushing over rocks was calming after the chaos of the battlefield. Ethan knelt and splashed some water onto her face, helping her refresh herself. Leora drank deeply, the cool water soothing her parched throat. "You are different from the humans I have seen before," she said quietly. "They run, they hide, they fight only when forced. You risk your life willingly." Ethan shrugged. "I guess I don't like seeing someone die if I can stop it. That's all. You're alive because I acted, not because I'm special." Leora studied him, sensing his humility. She had fought alongside many warriors, and most were proud and arrogant, always thinking they were the strongest. Ethan did not act out of pride. He acted out of choice. That thought made her feel strange. She could not name the feeling yet, but she noticed it kept growing every time she looked at him. After a short rest, they resumed their journey. Leora leaned on Ethan when she needed support, and he guided her through the rough terrain. They shared no more words at first, letting the quiet of the valley surround them. But the silence was not uncomfortable. It was a quiet bond forming between them, a sense of trust that neither fully understood yet. As night fell, the temperature dropped sharply. They found another small cave, hidden behind a cluster of boulders. Leora sat down carefully, massaging her leg. Ethan built a small fire outside the cave entrance, keeping watch while she rested. "You've done so much for me," Leora said finally, breaking the silence. I do not know how to repay you." Ethan shook his head. "You don't have to. Survive, that's enough. That's all I ask." Her gaze softened, and she looked down at her hands. "I am not used to this, to someone helping me without expecting anything." "Then get used to it," Ethan said lightly, though his eyes were serious. "Sometimes people do things for others, not for reward. It's rare, I know, but it happens." Leora gave a small nod. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a feeling she could not explain. Humans were different from her world, and Ethan was different even from other humans. He had courage, intelligence, and compassion. Altogether, it was a combination she had never seen before, and she could not ignore it. They ate simple rations that Ethan had carried, and he treated her wounds again, making sure her bandages were secure. Leora watched him, curious about his methods. Her people used advanced healing technology, yet he relied on simple techniques, cleaning, pressure, and careful care. And yet it worked. She felt better than she had since the battle began. After the meal, they sat near the fire in silence. The stars above were bright, filling the sky with their cold light. Leora looked at them, feeling small and human emotions stirring in her heart. She did not understand them fully, but she could not ignore them. Ethan noticed her gaze. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly. Leora turned to him, surprised. "You think humans and this sky, it is beautiful." Ethan smiled faintly. "I do. There is beauty in many things if you look for it. Even in chaos, even in battle, there can be moments of peace." She nodded slowly, letting his words sink in. She had spent most of her life focused on fighting, on surviving, on winning. Beauty was not something she had considered, yet here it was, simple and quiet, right in front of her, and the human beside her had shown it to her. They slept near the fire, taking turns keeping watch. Leora kept her distance at first, still proud and cautious, but over time she allowed herself to relax. Ethan's presence was calming, and for the first time in days she felt safe. The next morning they continued their journey. Leora's strength had returned slightly, and she could walk more steadily with Ethan's support. They moved carefully, avoiding enemy patrols and dangerous terrain. Along the way, they talked more, sharing small stories of their lives. Ethan spoke of Earth, of simple things like rivers, forests, and human cities. Leora listened, fascinated by the differences between their worlds. In return, Leora shared fragments of her past, stories of battles she had fought, of clans and warriors, and of a world harsh and unforgiving. Ethan listened without judgment, fascinated by her strength and courage. He asked questions, curious to understand, and she answered honestly, slowly lowering her guard. By evening, they reached a small hill overlooking a valley. Ethan pointed out a safe path leading toward a rebel outpost that could provide shelter and help for her. Leora studied the route, nodding. She trusted him now enough to follow his plan without argument. As they began to descend, Leora spoke quietly. "I did not expect humans to be like you. You are not weak, not cowardly. You are something else entirely." Ethan smiled faintly. "We can surprise people sometimes, just like you surprised me." She looked at him, and for a moment there was silence, a quiet connection forming between them. Both knew the journey ahead would be dangerous, but for now they were together, alive, and moving toward safety. And in that moment, a small spark of trust and respect grew between human and alien, a bond that would only strengthen in the trials to come. The valley stretched out before them, wide and filled with strange alien plants that shimmered faintly under the pale light of Violeas. Twin moons. Ethan Brooks led the way carefully, scanning every movement and sound. Leora followed close behind, leaning on him when the terrain became rough. Her leg had healed slightly from the makeshift treatment, but every step still caused her pain. She refused to complain, but Ethan could feel her stiffness and discomfort. "This way," Ethan whispered, pointing toward a narrow trail that wound between two jagged cliffs. "It's safer than the open ground. We can avoid patrols and get closer to the rebel outpost." Leora nodded silently. She trusted him more than she had expected to trust a human. She had never allowed herself to rely on anyone before, but now, with him guiding her, she felt safer. Strange emotions stirred inside her, ones she had never felt before in battle or in life. They moved slowly, carefully placing each step. Occasionally, Leora would glance at Ethan, watching his movements, the way he assessed danger, and the way he protected her without hesitation. Her admiration for him grew with every passing moment. After an hour, they reached a rocky plateau that gave them a better view of the valley below. Leora's sharp eyes scanned the area, noting clusters of enemy patrols moving among the alien flora. "They're close," she said quietly. "Too close to risk crossing the valley directly." "We need to find another route," Ethan nodded. "I saw a ridge on the map. It's farther but safer. We'll make it. Just follow me." They changed direction, moving along the edge of the plateau. Leora's pace was steady, though slower than usual. Every now and then, she would stumble slightly, and Ethan would catch her, keeping her upright. She noticed the warmth of his hand on her arm or back and felt a strange comfort in it. She tried to ignore it at first, but it lingered in her mind. Hours passed as they climbed and circled the valley, avoiding patrols and dangerous terrain. Leora began to ask questions about humans, curious to understand their world. "Your people, you fight too?" she asked. "Or do you avoid conflict whenever possible?" Ethan shrugged. "It depends. We defend ourselves when we need to. We protect our homes, our families, our friends. We're not all warriors, but we try to survive and help others when we can." She considered his words carefully. Your kind is small, fragile, yet you still fight. That is strange to me, Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe, but strength is not just size or muscle. It's courage and the will to do what's right. That's something humans have plenty of. Leora nodded slowly. She had always measured strength by skill, power, and victory in battle. Yet this human had shown her a different kind of strength, the courage to act without fear, to risk everything for someone else. That idea was new to her, and it made her think. Night fell and the valley became darker. Strange alien creatures with glowing eyes moved silently among the plants. Leora kept her hand on her weapon, alert for danger, while Ethan led her along a narrow trail through a rocky gorge. Almost there, he whispered. The outpost is just beyond that ridge. Leora felt relief, but she also felt a strange hesitation. She had always relied on herself. Now she was relying on him. She had never admitted her dependence on anyone, but she realized that she trusted him completely. That thought unsettled her, though she did not know why. As they reached the ridge, a sudden noise made them freeze. A patrol of enemy aliens appeared below, moving quickly through the valley. Leora's eyes narrowed and she prepared for a fight despite her injury. Ethan grabbed her arm gently. We don't fight unless we have to. Follow me quietly. They crept along the ridge, pressing close to the rock face. The patrol passed directly below them, unaware of their presence. Leora felt her heart pounding in her chest. The human's calm and careful movements impressed her. He did not panic, did not hesitate, and he kept her safe. She had never met anyone like him. Once the patrol disappeared, they moved quickly down the other side of the ridge. Leora leaned heavily on Ethan, exhausted from the climb and the tension. He helped her steady herself, and she realized how much she relied on him. Thank you, she said quietly, her voice soft. I would not have survived without you. You don't have to thank me, Ethan replied. I'm just glad you're alive. They reached the edge of the valley and saw the rebel outpost in the distance. It was small, hidden among rocky cliffs, with makeshift walls and watchtowers. Leora's eyes lit up with relief. She could finally rest, recover fully, and plan her next move. As they approached, a guard called out, stopping them. Ethan raised his hands. We mean no harm. She needs help. She is wounded. The guard studied them, then nodded, letting them pass. Leora walked slowly, leaning on Ethan, but her pride remained. She did not like to appear weak, yet she could not deny her need for help. Inside the outpost, they were greeted by a small group of humans and aliens who worked together to resist the enemy forces. They guided Leora to a medical area where her wounds were treated more thoroughly. Ethan stayed by her side, watching carefully. Rest, he said gently. Let them take care of you. Leora nodded, letting herself be guided to a bed. The humans and aliens around her were cautious, respectful, and curious. She was a warrior of great skill, and her presence here was unusual. Yet she felt safe, more than she had since the battle began. As she lay on the bed, Ethan sat nearby, keeping watch. She looked at him, studying his face in the dim light. She realized she felt something she could not name, a mixture of trust, gratitude, and something more. She had never allowed herself to feel like this before, and it made her uneasy. Ethan noticed her gaze. You're safe now, he said quietly. No one will hurt you here. She nodded, but her mind wandered. She had survived countless battles, faced deadly enemies, and relied only on herself. Yet now she realized how much she depended on him. That realization was new, and it made her feel exposed. Over the next few days, Leora recovered steadily. The humans at the outpost treated her wounds with care and skill, and Ethan stayed with her whenever possible. They moved together through the outpost, planning strategies, sharing information, and learning from each other. Ethan taught her simple human tactics, how to blend into the environment, how to anticipate enemy movements, how to use strategy instead of just strength. Leora adapted quickly, her warrior instincts combining with his lessons to make her even more formidable. In return, Leora shared her knowledge of alien combat and tactics, helping the humans understand their enemy better. Ethan listened attentively, impressed by her skill and intelligence. The two of them worked seamlessly, learning from each other, growing stronger together. One evening, after a long day of planning and training, they sat together near the outpost's small fire pit. Leora watched the flames dance, her mind filled with thoughts of the battles she had fought and the strange human who had saved her. You are different from the humans I knew, she said quietly. You are brave and honest and strong in ways I did not expect. Ethan looked at her and smiled. We can surprise people sometimes, just like you surprised me. Leora felt a warmth in her chest. She did not fully understand it, but she knew it was important. She had never felt this way before, not about anyone, not about any human. And now she realized she could not ignore it. Days turned into nights, and Leora grew stronger each day. She practiced her combat skills, learning from Ethan and from the humans at the outpost. Yet she always returned to him at the end of the day, seeking his presence, his guidance, and the strange comfort that he brought. One night, as they sat under the alien stars, Leora spoke softly. "I did not expect to feel like this. I am a warrior. I am supposed to be alone, strong, and feared, but with you I feel something else, something I cannot name." Ethan listened quietly, understanding more than she realized. "It's okay to feel that way," he said. "You don't have to fight everything alone. You don't have to hide from it." Leora studied his face, seeing the truth in his eyes. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that she could trust someone, that she could rely on someone without fear. And that someone was him, the human who had saved her life, and who had shown her a world beyond battle and blood. As the night deepened, they sat together, sharing silence and quiet understanding. Outside, the alien world stretched endlessly, full of danger and beauty alike. Inside, a new bond had formed, fragile yet strong, between a human and an alien warrior. Leora did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing. She would follow him, trust him, and fight beside him. And in that trust, she found a strength she had never known before, a strength born not just of skill or power, but of courage, loyalty, and connection. And Ethan, watching her quietly, knew that this was only the beginning. Together, they would face the dangers ahead, stronger for their trust in each other, and ready for whatever challenges awaited them. The next morning, the air at the rebel outpost was filled with activity. Humans and aliens moved quickly, preparing supplies, repairing weapons, and planning their next moves against the enemy forces. Ethan Brooks walked beside Leora, guiding her as she navigated the crowded paths. She was stronger now, her leg mostly healed, but she still leaned on him occasionally. "You move well for a human," Leora said, glancing at him with a faint smile. "You are not as slow or fragile as I expected." Ethan laughed lightly. "We get stronger when we have to be. And sometimes we surprise even ourselves." She studied him, curious and cautious. Her pride as a warrior made it hard for her to admit how much she had come to rely on him. Yet the truth was undeniable. He had saved her life, guided her through danger, and protected her when she could not protect herself. That was a debt she could not repay, though she felt the need to try. They entered the medical area, where Leora was greeted by the outpost's healer, a small human woman named Clara. She was efficient, precise, and gentle, checking Leora's wounds and applying new bandages. Leora watched carefully, noting the difference between human care and the advanced alien methods she was used to. Despite its simplicity, it was effective. Ethan stayed nearby, watching over her. "How does it feel?" he asked quietly. "Better," Leora replied. "Much better." "Your kind has strange methods, but they work." Clara smiled at her. "Humans are good at fixing what they can with what they have. Sometimes that is enough." Leora nodded, thinking about Ethan. His presence had been enough to save her even before Clara's care. She had never thought of humans as capable of such skill, bravery, or dedication. And now she realized that she trusted him completely. After her wounds were treated, Ethan led Leora to a quiet corner of the outpost. "You need to rest more," he said. "Your body is stronger, but you still need to regain full strength." She sank onto a bench, exhausted but alert. "I am not used to resting," she admitted. "I have always been active, always fighting. Now it feels strange to rely on someone else." Ethan nodded. "It is strange at first, but trust can be a strength, not a weakness. You've learned that already, haven't you?" She looked at him, surprised by his insight. Yes, I have, and it is powerful. I see that now." The next few days were filled with training and planning. Leora practiced her combat skills alongside the humans at the outpost, blending her alien techniques with their tactics. Ethan guided her, showing her how to use the environment, how to anticipate enemy movements, and how to fight smarter, not just harder. "You have improved," Ethan said one evening as they practiced near the training grounds. "Your skills were already impressive, but now you're even more dangerous." Leora smiled faintly, though she did not show it often. "You teach well for a human," she replied. "I learn quickly because I trust your guidance." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Trust, huh? That's good. It makes a difference in battle. It makes a difference in life." Her eyes lingered on him for a moment, and she felt a warmth she could not name. She had never allowed herself to feel this way toward anyone, human or alien, yet she could not deny it. Ethan had changed something inside her, something she was only beginning to understand. One evening, after a long day of training, they walked together to the edge of the outpost, overlooking a small canyon below. The sun was setting, casting a pale orange light across the rocky terrain. Leora's eyes followed the shifting shadows, thinking of the battles she had fought, the enemies she had faced, and the human who had saved her life. "You have done more for me than anyone else ever has," she said quietly. "You have protected me, guided me, and kept me alive." "I do not know how to repay you." Ethan shook his head. "You don't have to repay me. Survive, fight, and live, that's enough. That's all I ask." Leora studied his face, noting the calm determination in his eyes. He did not expect gratitude or reward. He acted because it was right, because it needed to be done. That concept was new to her, but she admired it. She admired him. "Still," she said softly, "I feel something I cannot explain. I owe you more than I can repay, and yet I want to try." Ethan looked at her, curious. "Try how?" She hesitated, unsure how to voice thoughts she had never allowed herself to speak. I want to stay with you, to fight alongside you, to learn from you, to be near you." Ethan's eyes widened slightly. He had expected trust and respect, but not this confession. Yet he did not recoil or judge. He simply nodded, understanding more than she realized. "Then stay. We'll face the future together. That's all that matters." Relief and surprise washed over Leora. She had expected rejection, doubt, or caution. Instead, he accepted her completely, without question. That simple acceptance made her feel stronger, more determined, and oddly lighter. The next days passed quickly. Leora trained, recovered, and learned more about humans and their ways. Ethan continued to guide her, showing her strategies, teaching her to adapt, and encouraging her to trust in both herself and him. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, built on respect, trust, and shared experiences. One morning, they received news that a nearby patrol of enemy forces was moving closer to the outpost. Leora's instincts flared, and she prepared immediately. Ethan studied the map, planning their defense. "You're stronger now," he said, "but we need to work together." "Trust me and trust your skills," Leora nodded. "I trust you," she replied. The words felt strange on her tongue, yet powerful. She had never trusted anyone fully before, but she trusted him completely. The battle came quickly. Leora and Ethan moved together, their combined skills making them a formidable pair. She fought with precision, her strength and agility enhanced by Ethan's tactics and guidance. He watched her back, covering her when needed, and she covered his. After the fight, they stood together, surveying the aftermath. The enemy was defeated, and the outpost was safe. Leora felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. She had fought fiercely, yet she had not been alone. She had fought alongside a human, and that human had been more than capable. "You fight well," Ethan said, smiling faintly. "Better than I expected." Leora's lips curved in a rare smile. "You fight well too. Together we are stronger than I imagined." That night they sat by the fire, sharing a quiet moment. Leora looked at Ethan, her thoughts turning inward. She realized that she had changed. The human had not only saved her life, but he had also shown her a new way to live, to trust, to connect, and to fight with someone by her side. "I do not understand these feelings," she admitted softly. "But I know they are important. You are important to me." Ethan looked at her calmly. "I understand, and I feel the same. We have been through much together, and it has made us stronger, stronger than anyone would expect." Leora nodded, feeling a sense of peace she had never known. She had survived countless battles alone, yet she had never felt this kind of strength. Not in her muscles or her skill, but in her trust, her connection, and her partnership with him. The days that followed were filled with preparation, training, and planning. Leora and Ethan worked side by side, each learning from the other, each growing stronger. Their bond deepened, built on trust, respect, and shared experience. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the alien landscape, Leora turned to Ethan. "I did not expect to need anyone. I did not expect to rely on anyone. But now I cannot imagine facing this world without you." Ethan smiled softly. "And you never will have to, not as long as I am here." For the first time in her life, Leora allowed herself to feel something beyond battle, something beyond survival. She allowed herself to trust, to connect, and to imagine a future where she did not face the world alone. And beside her, Ethan knew that their partnership, their bond, and their shared strength would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. The days following the last battle were quiet, but tense. Ethan Brooks and Leora moved through the outpost, checking defenses, training with the other humans and aliens, and preparing for whatever might come next. The enemy was still a threat, and both knew that peace here was temporary. Yet, for the first time since the brutal battlefield where Ethan had saved her, Leora felt something she had never experienced, a sense of hope. Ethan walked beside her as they patrolled the outpost's perimeter. The alien warrior's long silver hair shone faintly in the morning sun. Her movements were more careful than before, but she no longer needed his constant support. She had regained her strength, her skill, and her deadly precision. Yet she chose to stay close to him, not because she needed him, but because she wanted to. "You've grown stronger," Ethan said casually, glancing at her. "Even faster than I expected." Leora smiled faintly, though she did not often show it. "I fight better when I am not alone," she admitted. "You have taught me things I did not know I could learn. Humans are surprising." Ethan laughed softly. "You have taught me too. You've shown me things I never imagined, courage, strength, and wisdom that I could never have learned alone." For a moment, they walked in silence, listening to the faint sounds of activity around the outpost. Humans moved with purpose, while aliens carried heavy supplies and weapons. The outpost was a mixture of worlds and races, working together to survive against a common enemy. Leora observed them, realizing how much she had underestimated humans. They were not weak. They were clever, determined, and resourceful, and Ethan was proof of that. Later that day, a scout ran into the outpost, breathless and covered in dust. "Enemy patrol near the eastern ridge," he shouted. "They are moving faster than expected." Leora's eyes narrowed. She rose to her feet, ready for battle. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll handle it," he said calmly. "Together." They moved quickly to the eastern ridge, their movements synchronized. Leora's speed and skill, combined with Ethan's strategy and awareness, made them a deadly team. They found the patrol approaching, unaware of the trap Ethan had prepared. "Wait for my signal," Ethan whispered. Leora nodded, crouching beside him. Her heart pounded, but it was not fear. It was anticipation, the thrill of battle, and the confidence that she was not alone. She had faced countless enemies before, but this time she fought with someone she trusted implicitly. When the patrol entered the clearing, Ethan gave a subtle signal. Leora sprang into action, moving with precision and deadly grace. She struck quickly, disabling the lead alien with a swift blow. Ethan covered her flank, taking out two more with careful aim. Together they moved as one, each protecting the other, each striking with skill and purpose. The battle was over within minutes. The patrol was defeated and the outpost remained safe. Leora and Ethan stood side by side, catching their breath. The adrenaline slowly faded, replaced by a sense of satisfaction and calm. "You fought well," Ethan said, giving her a faint smile. "So did you," Leora replied. She felt a sense of pride, not only in her own skill, but in their partnership. They had faced danger together and emerged stronger. That night, the outpost celebrated. Humans and aliens shared food and stories, their voices filling the quiet night. Leora sat beside Ethan, watching the flames of a small fire flicker in the darkness. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a feeling she had not known before. She trusted him completely, respected him, and now she realized she cared for him in a way she could not fully explain. "You saved my life," she said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. "You guided me, protected me, and yet you expect nothing in return. I cannot ignore that." Ethan looked at her calmly. "I never expected anything. I only did what was right. But you staying with me, trusting me, fighting alongside me, that is enough." Leora studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "It is strange," she said quietly. "I have always been alone, I have fought alone, and yet with you I feel different, stronger, alive in a way I have never felt." Ethan reached out and took her hand gently. "That is because you are not alone anymore. We face the world together, and that makes all the difference." She felt a shiver of emotion, one she had never allowed herself to feel. She had spent her life building walls around herself, never trusting anyone fully. But now those walls were gone. She trusted him completely, and it filled her with both fear and strength. Over the following days, Leora and Ethan trained together, patrolled together, and planned their next moves. Their bond grew stronger with each shared moment. Leora's respect for humans deepened, and her admiration for Ethan became something more. She realized that she wanted to be near him, to fight alongside him, and to share in the victories and challenges ahead. One morning, as they walked along the ridge overlooking the valley, Leora turned to Ethan. "I never expected this," she said softly. "I never expected to feel this way toward a human, yet I cannot deny it." Ethan glanced at her, his eyes calm and steady. "Then don't deny it. It is part of who you are, part of what makes you strong. Accept it, and you will find even more strength." Leora considered his words. She had spent so long relying only on herself, trusting no one. Yet here was a human who had earned her trust, who had saved her life, and who had shown her a new way to live. She could not ignore it. That night, they sat together under the stars, sharing a quiet moment away from the outpost's activity. Leora spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to stay with you. I want to fight alongside you, to trust you, and to share my life with you." Ethan smiled faintly, his hand brushing against hers. "Then stay. We will face everything together. I do not need promises or oaths, just your trust, your strength, and your partnership. That is enough." Leora nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of peace. She had fought countless battles alone, survived impossible odds, and faced enemies stronger than she imagined. Yet she had never known strength like this, strength born not of muscle or skill, but of trust, connection, and shared purpose. The days that followed were filled with training, strategy, and preparation. Leora's skills grew stronger under Ethan's guidance, and together they led the outpost in small victories against the enemy. Their teamwork became legendary among the humans and aliens in the outpost, a symbol of unity and trust. One evening, after a successful mission to sabotage an enemy supply line, Leora and Ethan returned to the outpost. Exhausted but victorious, they sat together, watching the twin moons rise over the horizon. Leora turned to Ethan, her eyes reflecting the soft light. "You changed my life," she said quietly. "I never expected a human to save me, guide me, and make me feel like this. I cannot imagine facing the future without you." Ethan reached out and took her hand firmly. "Then you will not face it alone. We are partners in every sense. Together we are stronger than anything the universe can throw at us." Leora smiled, a genuine and rare smile. She felt a warmth in her chest, a feeling she had never allowed herself before. She trusted him completely, relied on him without fear, and admired him in a way that went beyond words. As they sat together, the wind blowing softly through the valley, Leora realized that she had changed. She was no longer just a lone warrior, fighting battles without care or connection. She was a partner, a teammate, a friend, and something more. And beside her was the human who had saved her, who had taught her trust, courage, and strength beyond the battlefield. Together they would face the universe. Together they would fight, survive, and thrive. And together they would prove that courage, trust, and connection could overcome any obstacle, no matter how deadly or impossible. For Leora, the alien warrior who had once fought alone, and Ethan, the human who had risked everything to save her, this was the beginning of a new chapter. One filled with trust, partnership, and the unshakable bond forged through battle, survival, and mutual respect. And as they looked toward the horizon, both knew without words that their story was only beginning.